Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. As you can see, we have a guest.
Hello, everyone.
Her name is Rocio. She's my wife. And because of the subject matter of this show, she wanted to be on the show. So I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. And as always, we got our returning. Hello, Ray. Hello, Giancarlos.
What's up
Greetings from the other side of the planet.
in the
Notice how
future?
notice how Giancarlos doesn't ask for the lotto numbers anymore.
No, but when I make them, don't come to me, Ray.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna buy a yacht for your kitty, not for you.
That's fair.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what I feel might be a little controversial among us. I started to feel the waters pre-show, so let's see what's going to happen. We have a one person goes completely on one end, the other person goes completely to the other end, and we have one that is on the fence. So I'm not mentioning any names, but you guys you guys will find out real soon what I'm talking about. So should we jump in into our first segment?
Define science fiction remnant.
And as always, if you want to have a shout out in our show, all you have to do is tweet at us and let us know, how do you define us to someone that likes sci-fi, and you think they might like our show. For this episode, I have Bree. Twitter handle is RK Benjem. And she says, an in depth and intelligent conversation about movies between two good friends who wants others to enjoy a show and talk about it together. What do you guys think?
Well, now we're three,
Ooh.
but that probably was about the first season. But
Yeah,
it's much about it, yeah.
at the time, we just basically just released season two. So yeah, it is possible that Bree had not listened to our season two at the time. So
But
that makes a lot of
look,
sense.
look at the positive side. It's just like a happy marriage. We were two, and then we became three eventually. Ah,
There's some
That-
temporal shenanigans going on, I feel.
we love you, our baby Ray.
It's my baby face.
So you're trying to say that we spawned Ray?
Yeah, pretty much.
Ray, what do you have to say about that?
Well, knowing that Giancarlo was out of the room at the time, it's getting even more confusing.
Oh my god.
Now it's open to question who's the mother, you or I, Robert.
Well, we're gonna leave the audience to decide.
Well, we just have to do the movie I Am Mother, and then we can talk about it.
Oh
there.
my god!
There you go. There you go. There you go. Well, I just wanna say thanks to Bree for that comment. We really appreciate it, and I hope you can send us another comment now that you're listening to the new season two, and we are three now, not two.
Does
If
that
you don't
mean
have,
we'll be 4 in season 3?
well, we're four right now, so maybe we can convince Rocio to join in, as a permanent, host. I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, so if you don't have anything more, should we jump into the next?
Oh, I do have one. I just wanted to give a shout out to Michael, a good friend of mine, who he said he finally got around to listening to the Remnant podcast. Just listens to the Logan's Run one, and it was really good. So, bit of positive feedback there.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying this, and it makes us really happy. And of course, it's a conversation we really enjoy. We also enjoy talking to Doug Joe. So Um, we'll have him soon in our show. So if you guys enjoy that conversation as well,
Hmm.
get ready for future episodes with Doc Joe. Anything else?
Um, we are not in the shadows yet, right?
No.
Okay.
So here goes the next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are MonoRants.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from SuddenBut Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And on today's episode, this is sci-fi. I have actually gone through the this is sci-fi hashtag, um, which I don't get tired of it. It is just totally amazing. Um, the great thing that I like about it that might benefit whoever is a fan of sci-fi is the fact that you could actually find new things. We have different podcasts that provides their link to their show. If it's a podcast that is not solely dedicated to sci-fi, you'll find episodes about sci-fi on that they have probably done. Or if you have a sci-fi podcast, you'll find a link there. You'll find conversations. One example that I have for this week is MonoRants, which, by the way, if you listen to Monorant at the end of every episode, they are actually playing the exact same audio clip, and they are heavy in the this is hashtag conversation, and they're also adding all of the episodes that they do. So I don't know if you guys agree with this, but this is kind of cool. If I can get all other, everybody that creates podcasts, not podcasts, but sci-fi, any form, to join up on the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag, and do you have fans going in there? There's a huge chance for discovery. That you can find things there that you might not known in the past, and maybe you find your next favorite thing. Um, have you any of you have gone this week on the This Is hashtag? This is Sci-Fi hashtag.
I scan it every now and again.
I will get
It's
out of the
very
way that
active.
I have not had the chance.
Yeah, it is. It is heavy. It's the conversation, as I can quote Ray on previous episodes when he said that it's a lot. You go in there and you could get lost, but that's a cool thing is that you can find things in there. If you're if
We've
you
created a monster.
well, that's the whole idea. You know, that is the whole idea. I love sci-fi so much, and it makes me so happy that there's a place where I can go in and find other things, not necessarily something I have watched in the past. Okay, so should we move on?
Shoutouts.
And from this portion, I wanted to do a special thank you to Rosalita. And her handle is Rosalita9899. Thank you so much for your comment and for letting everybody know how you enjoy our show and our episode on Logan's Wrong. We hope that you enjoy the next ones to come. And also wanted to say a special thank you to one of our favorite podcasts here, which is Sudden But Inevitable. I still need to get with these guys on an episode, man. I
They're
definitely
doing they are doing an anime right now because you know how that I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sudden But Inevitable.
do.
They're doing Death Note right now. So if you enjoy the anime called Death Note, you have to listen to Sudden Bud.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not missing that one. And also, last but not least, I wanted to mention the funny sci-fi. Always also getting involved in our conversations between us and also letting everybody know about our show. Thank you so much. And last but not least, MonoRants, the voice of the podcast. Thank you so much. Their handle is Rants Mono. If anybody needs to find over there, I always suggest everybody to go and check them out. They are great collaborators of ours, and they have a very awesome podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I am a regular. I can say that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and they're good people. The podcast is awesome. So you guys should go ahead and download it. Okay, so the next segment.
The Outer Remnant.
Okay, so this is going to be awesome. We actually broke our record, right? For Outer Remnant. I don't know if you guys have listened to our previous episodes. You notice that Giancarlo's might have been in one show, and Ray is in another show, and I am in a complete different show. But this is a record. For the very first time, the crew of Science Fiction Remnant was on a different podcast altogether. And it was a party. It was a total party. We're talking about It Goes Down on the PM with Julene. And we were talking about the toxic fandoms. Um, so, what do you think? I mean, I had a lot of blast.
We had a lot of trouble staying on topic. We went everywhere. It was just like Giancarlo was behind the wheel and he had a blindfold on. We just went everywhere.
So yeah, but
we must have done something right because she invited us back.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed being in her show, and I actually enjoyed her show as well. So I've been listening to it for a long time. I think long before back in season 1 of Science Fiction Remnant. So yeah, you guys should go ahead and download her show, and definitely listen to us on her show. It's going to be a blast. And reach out to us on Twitter and let us know what you guys think on our appearance on that show. And Julene, thank you so much. And we'll definitely be back.
Thank you, Julene.
Okay. So, Warehouse 13.
Fantasy.
Was there a show called that? I'm not sure. It was a bit of a secret, wasn't it? Like, I don't think anybody's supposed to know about it. Shh.
As far as I know, you guys never watched it. Is that correct?
I had never heard of it. It was a big secret.
And Giancarlo's is never watched it, I don't think. I mean, you watched bits and pieces. But technically, I want to say never watched it before.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of what genre you think, we'll get that in a minute. What do you think?
Oh, it's pretty fun. The show is fun. The episodes are actually quite interesting. What they choose for every, they kind of build a backstory into each character onto the whole show, which is nice. So it's not a bad show at all. It's a very good show.
Right. What is your thought on the show as a whole, or what you have seen? I know we haven't seen a lot of episodes for this show, which is okay. I mean, we typically just do an episode on one episode of the show. But overall, what do you think about the show? Is this your first impression on watching the show?
Well, it really didn't grab me to start with. I mean, you've got to give a TV show at least 3 episodes to start getting its feet under itself. And some shows, like I know that neither of you have watched Babylon 5, you heretics, but the first season of Babylon 5 is atrocious. The acting is hammed up, and it's just it really, the first season does not do Babylon 5 justice. And I felt that this show was heading down that same route, that the first season really wasn't grabbing me. And then we got to about episode 5 and it turned a corner, I feel, and started getting some real meat into the story. Now I'm starting to really enjoy it. So I must admit that I didn't get my homework finished, so I should be hit with a roll of paper or something like that. But I got episode 7 finished, so I'm up to episode 8 out of 12 for the first season. But introduced some new characters about mid-season, which was good because the 3 plus the boss lady was, starting to get a little bit thin. It didn't feel like the interactions were particularly fresh because there wasn't enough characters, but they introduced some more characters and started getting more complex. And I always like shows that have a bit of a mystery to them, like characters with backstories that are hinted at, but they don't explain them. And of course, being Secret Service, they don't explain mostly everything. So you're often left wondering. So if you're a viewer that likes something with a bit of mystery that, you've got to keep watching to find out about it, it'll keep you entertained and it'll keep you coming back for more. And I think that's what happened to Rocio, wasn't it? That's the sort of feeling you had for it.
Yeah.
Well, I am very curious, and I like the way that they do things. Like, for example, it's not just one thing at a time. It's like 3 or 4
Mhm.
things at a time that they are trying to resolve. One Pete and Myka do one thing, so Claudia do another one, and RD do another thing, and then they are working together, but at the same time they are doing different things
Mhm.
by their own. And all about the artifacts that looks like steampunk, but because I like steampunk, but it's not just steampunk. They present that, but it's more sci-fi because is
Well, I was gonna get to that.
The bear in the room.
Yeah, the bear, the huge elephant in the room. So yeah, I know what you're saying. We're gonna get to that in a minute because I'm gonna give my opinions and then I want to gauge what your thoughts are on this.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Let me explain for all of you who have not watched Warehouse 13. Warehouse 13 is an American science fiction television series that originally ran from July 7, 2009 to May 19, 2014 on the Sci-Fi network when they changed their name. So if you ask me to define, and you could probably Google this and you'll find the same response. Okay. If you ask me to define, I would say it's like watching Bones with Raiders of the Lost Ark, The X Files, and throwing some Bang Heights on there.
Sounds fair.
What do you guys think? I mean, I get a huge Bones slash X Files, Raiders of the Lost
Wow,
Ark.
you got a huge boner.
Well, that's from like when I'm not in the show, but yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't watched any of those shows that you
Oh, you
mentioned.
haven't? Okay.
You haven't seen X-Files? Wow.
X Files were like, yeah, I was a kid, so like I don't remember much.
Yeah. So one of the cool things that I like about the show is the fact that, and let me see if I can explain this correct because I have a hard time trying to explain this because it's very convoluted. So you know how in steampunk, in traditional steampunk, you have a device that is created to look like a digital device, but is all analog, and that's what makes it steampunk. So you have an engine that runs on steam or just levers and gears and stuff like that, right? I have to give this to the show because the most of the not most, but some of the devices they use in the show, they look like they could be a steampunk device. Basically, you are open. You if you decide to open them up and you look inside, you're expecting gears. You're expecting an analog device, but in fact, it is a digital device masqueraded as an analog device. Did you guys get that sense?
I thought it was the other way around.
The what?
I thought it was the other way around.
Dude, how could a Fanthworth be analog?
Well, the only thing that it has is the screen.
And the
There's
other and the other stuff. I mean, I might.
giant buttons and a big mic like a walkie-talkie.
Okay, so I gotta know this. Can you define a steampunk TV? How
Steampunk
would that
TV.
work? How would that work?
Anything that is copper has buttons and steams.
Okay, but you see what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's one of the great things that I find about the show is the fact that they kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? And I don't know. See, the thing is, I don't know if you guys seen this. And Ray, I don't know if you actually got to see what I'm talking about. And I find it very difficult to explain. They kind of fake you out in the devices.
Yeah, I think the design philosophy from the showrunner was we want to sort of reference Tesla and Edison and all these people and make out that they designed all these things that we're using today, like back 90 years ago, and the warehouse staff have been using them all this time. There was a scene in the episode that I just watched this morning where there was an older lady, she was in her 70s, I would guess, and she was an ex warehouse operative. She dropped off the grid and changed her name and just basically got the hell out of there. And somehow Secret Service hadn't managed to track her down. I guess back in the 60s they didn't have digital ways of imprinting faces and being able to scan through footage and all that sort of stuff and pick people out like they do today. But basically she'd managed to drop off and they must have let her, because I'm sure they would have been able to find her. But that aside, she looked at the communication device, the little handheld video phones that they have that were created back in the 30s by Edison and Tesla. And when I say 30s, I mean 1930s. And said to the new operatives, "Oh, they're still using those old things." So it's like giving you the feeling that there's a history to the warehouse, and people have come through there and taken their turns working for them and all that sort of stuff. And it's a long going enterprise. This has been going on for quite some time, and I think it's great that they've managed to sort of build this backstory that feels authentic, but also that the design philosophy of the showrunners was take something we use now, like FaceTime, and make it look like, the warehouse staff have had this for nearly 100 years through devices that were never made public or never put into mass production. And I'm sure that there's a lot of inventors out there doing funky things with technology that then get bought up by big business and shelved until they're ready to make money off it. A lot of electric vehicles and things like that were actually, the designs for them were come up with in the 60s and 70s when fuel was the big thing, and that's what anybody was ever going to be using was gas, or petrol as they call it here in Australia. And all these designs were shelved because it wasn't the right time for them. They were bought up by the creators, and the big companies put them on the shelf and said that will stay there until we stop making money from gasoline, or there's a backlash, and then we have to slowly change over to it. So, I mean, I don't have proof that that's happening, but I reckon it is. So it had that feel in the show that these things were created quite some time ago, and they work, but they were never mass produced. They were kept secret so that the people working for the warehouse had that advantage.
Yeah, and I would have to add to that, and I don't know if you have gotten far enough in the show to know, but these people are more secretive than the NSA. So Artie and Claudia as a team would be able to erase anyone from anywhere and give them a new identity if they wanted to. Um, and that's the type of it kind of like reminds me of, I don't know, a little bit of the show 24 in that sense, where they can actually not necessarily hack government computers, but kind of use them because they're actually are part of the government. They're a secretive part of the government that works in the shadows.
Well, the
What I,
whole
what I
point of
like more about 24 is that their hacker's a porn star.
Well, the whole point of government and it being siloed is so that one group can't be in control of everything. But when you have a group that's working outside of the normal channels and they have a technological advantage, and have always had a technological advantage for like 100 years, then, and it's almost like a requirement of their job. They have got to work without all the other parts of the government knowing what's going on, because they have to be super secret to keep this stuff from causing mayhem for the rest of the world. So basically, to function as Warehouse 13, they A, need to have a superior advantage, and B, they need to be able to get into and operate all the various other parts of government, records and licenses and dispatches and all that sort of stuff, to be able to do their job effectively. And I mean, I admittedly, I'm not an American, and we don't have any of this sort of stuff in Australia that I know of, but specialized governmental secret groups that report directly to the president, because the rest of the mechanism of government shouldn't know what's going on. It's too dangerous for it to be widely known. So, I mean, I figure that's what they're going for.
Yeah, yeah. Um, have you guys watched the show Alphas or Eureka?
I've seen Eureka.
Okay, this show is actually in the same universe.
Really?
Yes, there are a couple of episodes. I think there's one episode in particular that I know in Eureka, where Claudia Donovan shows up as a warehouse agent,
Wow.
and
That's
there
cool.
are a couple of episodes. Well, this I think it's a couple of episodes where we have people from Eureka and show up on the show. So I find that to be really interesting. I mean, I have. Let me see here if I have Warehouse 13, season 2, episode 5, 3, episode 6, and Eureka season 4, episode 5 is actually a crossover episode.
Hmm.
So this show has a very direct link when it comes. Let me rephrase that. This show has had a lot of actors from other sci-fi shows appear on 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 various episodes, and in some cases there have been some regulars for certain arcs here and there. Um, to give you an idea, um, Star Trek, for example. I mean, there's a lot more, but I'm just going to name a couple. From Star Trek, we have Captain Janeway from Voyager. Is actually remember the captain Janeway,
Which one?
who's Pete's mom.
Oh, yes.
So 7 of 9 from Voyager is Pete's ex-wife. Odo from Deep Space Nine, he designed the computer that is used inside Warehouse 13.
Huh.
And we have Data also appear in the show.
Brent Spinner.
If you follow Galactica,
Spiner.
we have Michael Hogan, Colonel Ty, and we have number 6, Trisha Helfner. From Torchwood, we have Yanto Jones. So if you follow Torchwood, you're going to recognize them. We have from Galaxy Quest, we have Lillery, Missy Pyle. from other shows, one that I can consider a regular for one of the arcs is Lindsay Wagner. You know her as Bionic Woman. She is the doctor um, uh,
Audi.
Audi is completely in love with. And we have Anthony Michael Hall, um, is one of the bad guys in one of the arcs, and Tia Carrere is one of the FBI agents in another arc. So this show, I wonder if they have done that intentionally. Um, but it is kind of fun to be able to see other actors not necessarily reprising the roles in this show. Have you guys? I'm sure you guys probably picked up a couple of those. The one that I mentioned, for example, number 6 from Galactica, um, is one of the FBI agents that Pete and Myka had to deal with in the episode where they were using the music to rob the banks.
Oh yes, that was a good one.
So you guys seen Galactica, by the way?
Oh yeah.
So do you recognize her?
I may not have. It's been a couple of decades since I saw
It's
Galactica, so
there's one episode because Pete is a 10-year-old boy. There's an episode, and I think that's one of the reasons why I feel
That is a resonance episode.
yeah the
Episode
rest of
3.
episode 3, yeah. um there was a scene. Pete he likes women, let me put it that way. and, and there's an episode where Myka, after leaving Pete with the FBI agent, the one that we're mentioning right now, Trisha Helpner, um she's like, okay, so what have you advanced any in the investigation? Because they were together, working out how they're robbing the banks. And Pete turns to Myka and says, she sachets. And she, I don't know if you guys picked that up. It's like, I don't know that she knows that. And Myka says, oh, she knows.
I got to
She
say that
knows.
sachet is not a word in most 10-year-olds' vocabulary. I'll just give him those props.
Well, the reason why I said he's a 10-year-old boy is because you leave Pete in a room and he touches everything. There's a scene where there's a couple of swords and he's grabbing it and swinging it around, and Artie says, hey, Pete, put that down. So he puts it down, and as soon as Artie's looking away, he picks it up again. I love Pete. Do you guys have a favorite character in the show yet? I'm sure you guys haven't gotten that far, but I'm just kind of curious, as far as you have gotten, if you have a particular character that you like.
Claudia Donovan.
Oh yes,
Totally Claudia Donovan. She's so sassy. I love it.
Oh yeah, she's my favorite all-time hacker.
I think I had to go with Pete.
Pete, I like Pete. I really like Pete. He just there's websites where there's Pete quotes.
Claudia has great one-liners. Even in flashbacks when she's a little girl, she still has great one-liners.
Yes, that's true.
Rocio, who is your favorite? If you have to pick, it's probably going to be a hard question for her because she loves the show. But which one would you say would be your favorite character?
I like Pete because he's like a kid, but I like Claudia because she does kind of scientific research.
Yeah, she actually upgrades the warehouse. You know how Artie likes to have.
Surprise me at all.
You know how Artie likes to keep everything. All his computers the way they are. He's using the the glass map and all this stuff, and Claudia comes in and grabs technology from the warehouse and upgrades the computer system, installed a holographic projector, and all the stuff that he was doing on the chat board is being done in a holographic projector. And Artie is just he's just upset because he doesn't like change. He wants things the way they were. And now comes Claudia and upgrades everything.
But
I,
she acted like a very good hacker before she started working for Waterhouse 13. She basically tricked Artie going through the system and doing whatever she wants.
Oh yeah, she tricked Artie into thinking that it was coming from the FBI boss's computer. It's kind of funny when he turns around and says, "Like you've been had. I'm not the one hacking you." That one must have been like really embarrassing, because you're supposed to be, this shadow, over the FBI, over the NSA, government organization, and a teenager just handed over, and just Claudia is amazing.
Another thing that calls my attention is when Ari was trying to work from the office of the FBI. From his computer, he was doing something else to try to figure it out who is going through the system. So he go like in a loop.
Hmm.
He like in the black.
Yes. I think I don't know if you guys what you guys think about that one in particular. Apparently, he started to getting the same visions that Claudia was having. This is concerning Claudia's brother and how
Mm-hmm.
um, Artie couldn't save his brother, and he was
Joshua.
they were yeah Joshua. They were actually working in a transporter, like the Star Trek transporters.
Yep.
Um, and something went wrong, and Artie couldn't save him. This is when Claudia was a little girl.
Her brother got stuck in another dimension, and Clyde was in the normal one.
They had the information from the mathematician to put somebody into an alternate dimension, but not how to bring them back, and that
Yeah,
was the part that was hidden.
I believe that was a Redicus
Compass.
Redicus
Yes.
compass.
And the compass went with him, so they couldn't get the information because it was in the other dimension.
Yeah, it's amazing how the one that actually came up with the solution um, was Pete when they were looking at that device. He broke it apart, and the decoder was below it. Um, it's definitely something that would be Myka in this particular case, but that was kind of interesting. How is it like you remember that episode?
Oh yeah,
So I mean, I hear Giancarlo's talk about Joshua being stuck in another dimension. Um, isn't that sci-fi?
Yeah. If you made it with an Avada Cadaver over there.
I don't know. I just had to go in there.
Harry Potter is a fiction because they have the castle in another dimension through the
Yeah,
nine three quarters. Three
the
quarters.
9 3/4. um,
well, I'd have to say that the difference between science and magic is that magic cannot be explained, whereas science can. And during this show, they have, if
Magic is
not,
explained with mana and enchantments.
yeah, but can you measure that with scientific equipment? No, you cannot.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that all the things that they're using have been created by people who were scientists in their time, who were creating technologies and who were building things in their time. Now the effects that some of these things have are unexplainable, but they're all things that were built. They didn't just pop into existence. There's a statement that technology, if advanced enough, is indistinguishable from magic.
Hey,
yes.
And that
magic
is
was
basically because you can't explain how it works and you can't see how it works. But pretty
magic
much
is
all
not
of these things
created
you can
on
see
thin
how they
air.
work.
Magic is not created on thin air. It has magic wands and enchantments and mana. A
Yes, it's
scientific
methodology, but it's
explain.
not scientific methodology.
You see what I mean, Ray?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see. He's what we call colloquially down here in Australia as a shit stirrer. So
Yeah.
just gonna live with that.
I like that. I like that. I feel identified.
Oh, I had to mention something that I was reading about the show, and I can definitely remember, and me and Rocio, because we watched this. This is kind of like a how many times have we watched this show? Like three times.
Mhm.
We love this show. There was a there was one of the rules. I don't know if you remember the rules that Artie gave on the first episode to Pete and Myka, where a bunch of questions were given that make no sense. And they're like, really? Do I have to ask this whenever, and
Oh yes.
they they're hilarious. They make no sense. One of those questions that I can point out just to say what I'm about to say is, do you smell fudge in places where there are no fudge?
Yeah.
And you're like,
And
what?
actually, in the last episode that I watched, she said, "I smell fudge."
Then it's like, Pete, I smell fudge. So she gets it for the first time,
She
but
also uses the term red shirt. I'm not a red shirt. Which is
the,
beautiful that they're linking it to other sci-fi properties.
yeah, the entire thing. I mean, and even bringing other sci-fi actors. I mean, I think that they're doing that too. But there's so many quotes in this show that like that one. They point out to other sci-fi shows. But getting back to what I was saying, um, that from that episode, that actually has become a running joke on the show, where they smell fudge. Because I guess just like me, if I hear that sentence for the first time, I'm going to think it's going to be hilarious. So yeah, I'm going to play around with that sentence because it makes no sense. So like midway through the, let me see here. We talked about when Myka, I think it was the episode of when they were getting the feather out of the wall.
Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, Before that, she called Pete and said, "I smell fudge." Um, there's another episode when Artie identifies a mine just by smelling it. And, going back to what Ray says on Claudia's, amazing, you know, lines, is she said immediately, "Oh, it's fudge, right?" So if you watch this show, you're going to catch, the fudge running joke, across multiple episodes because they just, I guess the cast thought it was hilarious. So every time they just ad lib it. Um, what do you guys think about that whole list and specifically like the smell of fudge?
It's fudged up.
So you're telling me that they were ad-libbing the fudge thing and it wasn't actually written into the script?
Well, in future episodes.
Ah.
In future
They just
episodes.
keep dropping it in where they feel it fits.
Yeah, when it was like something that, like, like for example in this particular case, and I can't remember I think it was in season 2. Was it the first episode? I already discovered a mine just by smelling it, and Claudia immediately says, "Is it fudge?" And then you get stuff like that all throughout the show, where there's something that someone doesn't really get, and someone mentions fudge. I just find that to be hilarious. And now that you watch the show and you hear, it's going to be a lot more hilarious now that because you're going to be expecting it.
It
I'm going to be
couldn't
looking
be the
for it.
first
Yeah,
episode.
totally.
Oh, season 2.
Ah,
Season 2, first episode. I think it was the first episode, season 2. Um, another thing that I can recall from this episode is, I mean, from the show, um, Pete, the actor Eddie McClintock is was known in this show for forgetting his lines.
So he is
And
10 years old.
and he always improvised his way through the episode, like with no trouble. Just just ad lib basically. When he forgets his line, I mean, I'm not saying it happens all the time because then it would have make you could probably tell, but um, this kind of annoyed. I would see how it would annoy the writers. Because you write an episode and you expect this to be said by an actor, and then they come up with something completely different. I mean, it works for the show, and now in retrospect, I don't want that to be done any other way because it just makes it. It makes the character a Pete. But there was an episode, um, and I should have written the was it season what season and what episode it was where there was an artifact that was cursed by William Shakespeare. They was killing people. I don't know if you guys seen it, but if you continue watching the show, you'll probably watch it. The writers actually wrote that for Pete, um, because the reason why Shakespeare cursed this artifact is because it was cursing um, an actor in his plays back in time when he was doing plays. Shakespeare's. They kept on forgetting his lines, and he wanted to just kill them. So,
That couldn't
How
be more
meta.
direct.
uh,
That couldn't be more direct.
exactly. You
It was
know,
very meta. It was very
Yeah,
meta.
you
definitely.
remember that episode, Rocio, when it was a Shakespeare, it was like a parchment, and it was just killing people, um, by touching they had to like say, I think it was, there was a scene where there was it three senators? I can't remember too well now. I should have just written down. I
Oh,
just be
I remember say
the
the Myka need to go to her father library. So she was telling to Pete what to do, isn't it? That she was seeing papers,
yes.
like
This paper was actually killing the people in the way that
as soon as they touch
yes. Yeah.
the draw, the paper with a draw,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It was, yeah, it was a drawing on the paper.
Hmm.
An old paper, and that was like
But has a
Shakespeare.
magic on it.
Yeah. Do you guys had out of the episodes that you have seen, do you have a particular um artifact or situation that calls your attention, based on what you've seen so far, that you can recall?
You go first, Ray.
I'm just looking up the name of it. The Spine of Saracen. That
Oh,
thing was evil.
oh yes, it looked like an alien,
Face
Mm.
hugger.
like a backwards face hugger, and instead
It
of
looked like
hugging your face,
a metallic face hugger without the long tail that jumped on people's backs. Yeah, that was horrible.
ooh. And Pete got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, now what's his
Remember
name?
that metal thing that Pete got in the back that was electrifying?
Mhm.
Eddie McClintock, who plays Pete, did a fantastic job in that episode. I started to really feel that his characterization of the character was coming through in that episode when he had it on his back and he's like gritting his teeth and you can see he's angry and he's trying to control himself. It was well acted, I thought.
Yeah, because that's not necessarily Pete. I mean, he gets angry, but that was, you can tell he was,
So the artifact affected him.
yeah, yeah. And that was a bad situation because at that moment he knows he's going to die. Everybody that uses this thing just dies.
Everybody that gets used by this thing dies.
Yeah,
Is more accurate.
yeah. You get selected for the job. You don't pick it.
Yep.
If you have a spine, you're in the running for being selected.
I would say that was a very good one, and I was gonna mention that I particularly haven't find one that I could like say like that one because they're very creative in every episode. So every nemesis they face is quite interesting and different in its own way, and that's something fun about the show that you don't expect the same every single episode. You don't know what's gonna happen actually.
Yeah, yeah. And I like, and I don't know if Array, if you got far enough to tell, um, but how the characters, there's an arc, the growth arc in each character. Um, if you haven't gotten far enough, you should at least kind of tell that they're changing slowly. By the time you get to the final season, you see a big dramatic change, in the growth of these characters. Did you guys notice? It might be a hard question because you haven't gotten as far as I've gotten through, as I gotten through the show. But have you guys noticed the growth arc?
Starting to see it. I mean, I'm only 7 episodes in, so it's probably going to take a little while yet.
Yeah.
The growth
I mean,
arc.
this show is quite slow burn. They're not rushing into things. Being a secret service organization with a need to know only, everything is slow burn. You find out little snippets here and there, and start putting them together about the characters and about what they're doing, and they don't explain everything up front. There's a lot of mystery to it, and if you like the X-Files, if you like shows like Indiana Jones movies and things like that, then this will be up your alley, I think. But you have to be patient with it. It's not going to just dump it all out to you in 45 minutes and have, well, this is the this and that's that. It's a lot of mysteries, and you got to keep watching to find out what the actual answers are.
Now, one thing that I had to point out, and I'm sure you probably have gotten to know so far, not as to the extent that maybe Rocio and I have, but there's a lot of Easter eggs of history in this thing. Um, if you pause, like just to give an example, in the scene that actually became part of the intro to the show, or anytime there's a wide shot of the warehouse, you get to see known artifacts. Example, and one time I had to pause it really fast because it goes really fast. I saw the Trojan horse. I actually saw
I remember you
Titanic.
mentioned it.
I saw Titanic in there. I saw the blimp that supposedly burned. Is actually on the
The
ceiling hanging.
Did you see the Ark of the Covenant?
The Ark of the Covenant is in there too.
Thor's hammer. I think you find it there.
I saw Excalibur. Um, but those are main things. But if you notice, there's a lot of things in there that you recognize. For example, that were created by Tesla or by Edison. For example, in one of the first episodes, when actually the first episode, when Artie was introducing Myka and Pete to the warehouse, he was giving them a tour inside this little, um, kind of like a car where they were holding on to the bars. And Myka let go of the bars and the car stopped. And it's like, okay, Myka, put your hands on the bar. And Myka says, like, no, I'm not gonna, like, she's making a joke, like this is a roller coaster ride and she's not gonna fall off. It's like, no, 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 you don't understand. You and Pete are closing an electronic connection that is making the car go. So basically, she's using them as a battery.
Mhm.
As soon as he said that, Pete, 10-year-old he is, he let go of the bars because he didn't want to get electrocuted. It's like, Pete, put your hands on the bar. And then he actually mentions that was done by Edison. It's a collaboration between Edison and Ford. that car. So you got things like that. If you pause through, and it's kind of hard to see. You have to be like eh, basically into history, but they did a really good job at placing objects that might not necessarily be part of an arc or an episode or an actual story within the show in the background, that are part of history, like something someone created, um in the past, like that. Have you guys, I know it's a little early, but some of them might be in the front, like the car from Edison and Ford, and some they don't even get a mention. They're just in the background where you have to kind of pause real quick and notice it.
Well, the beauty of that is in creating a deep backstory that these two new recruits, as they are to the warehouse team, are not the first people doing this. This has been going on for over a century, and all of these things collected in this warehouse are artifacts that other agents have collected over time. They've identified that they had practically supernatural effects, and they needed to be, quarantined for the safety of the public. And these people who were working in previous times, way back when, have used technologies created for the warehouse team by eminent inventors of the day like Edison and Tesla, and they take this equipment out and they requisition the artifacts and bring them back and put them in this place. So this collection has been building for over 100 years, and that's evident by the fact that there's so many things in there that don't come up as part of an episode. These people aren't going out to get them because they're already there, because they've been got by previous generations of Warehouse 13 operatives. So that's the deep backstory that's existing within the story we're being told now.
And the sheer size, if you think about it, this is Warehouse 13. There was a Warehouse 1, there was a Warehouse 2, and so on and so forth. And most of those warehouses, especially Warehouse 1 and maybe Warehouse 2, were actually sealed. So those warehouses had a huge collection of artifacts that were completely lost to Warehouse 13 because they were deemed, for some reason, maybe dangerous, and they were closed off. Um, some of the artifacts were moved from one warehouse to the other. So if you think about it, there's up to this point, there are 13 warehouses filled with artifacts that could be dangerous to Earth or to people at different levels, depending on what artifact it is. I don't know if you realize that or if this is something new. I know they talked about other warehouses later on. Warehouse, like for example, H.G. Wells makes an appearance and is a regular in the show. Where was she from? Do you remember, Rocio? H.G. Wells?
Yeah,
Warehouse 11, maybe?
yes. And I also remember that the warehouse that have been closed is because the person that is attached to them, like the lady that
Mm-hmm.
is for this warehouse, I don't remember her name.
H.G. Wells?
No. The lady that appears suddenly, nobody
Oh,
knows from where.
she's freaky. What would you do if Mrs. Frederick shows up?
Miss Frederick. Yes, she's attached to the mentally and physically to the warehouse.
She's part of the
So
warehouse.
yeah, so same thing for each warehouse. So when that person disappear or died, then they need to close. If it's if that attachment is not passed to the next one that is going to represent the warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
they need to close because it has so much information. It need to be protected. And she
Yeah,
basically protect the warehouse.
every warehouse has a Mrs. Fredericks, and it's probably too early for you guys to tell, but she is um linked to the warehouse. um, in a way that I can't. I mean, the show ended, and the only explanation that I can give is that she is part of the warehouse. Every warehouse has a person like this. Um, I'm not sure that you can transfer the person. So if you finish with a warehouse, that person somehow dies when the warehouse dies. Um,
Were they alive to begin with?
yeah, like for example, Mrs. Fredericks, and you guys haven't gotten around to this part yet, but she started to train Claudia to become her successor on Warehouse 13. So you imagine Claudia being a Mrs. Fredericks?
Oh God, no. She's too sassy.
Having all
Although,
the power?
we didn't see Mrs. Frederick, in her younger days. Maybe she was sassy like
Yeah.
Claudia.
Well, with all the stuff that she had seen, it is most likely that she would turn the way she did because there apparently you do lose agents. Look what happened to Artie. He was very resilient into getting Pete and Myka because he already lost. If I don't know if you remember from that photo, those are agents. It's like, oh, he died, he disappeared. But they don't explain it more in detail until further on in the show, where he is actually traumatized, by losing um, co-workers, fellow agents
Mm.
in the line of fire.
It's actually mentioned in, I think it's episode 7, that Artie sort of seals himself off from the agents and doesn't get too involved with them because he knows they're going to die probably or disappear.
Yeah. So, to get back,
H.G. Wells?
H.G. Wells was from Warehouse 12, and she was a warehouse agent that turned rogue.
She was so good. She invented a artifact or chairs that connect to your brain and make you go your soul back to the past.
Yeah.
So also she invented with a purpose because she lost her daughter. So she uh, mixed her emotions and personal life with Waterhouse. So she wanted to recover her daughter in any ways. She was risking everything to do that. So she was not bad. She wasn't a bad person. She just want to get her daughter back.
It's
Uh,
just the way that what she chose to do.
well, she did it because she has a purpose. So she was looking mean sometimes, but she wasn't.
That's the difference between not being bad and being selfish.
So yeah, she was an awesome agent, and what I actually loved about how they did this character, and it's the very first time that we meet H.G. Wells is very apparent to what I'm about to say, especially from Pete, where he's expecting, H.G. Wells, but you're a woman. She is actually H.G. Wells, the
Oh,
writer.
other thing about H.G. Wells,
uh
she was bronze. So she was a very old woman that was bronze, and she came
Awesome.
from the many, many years ago. So her daughter was also from another maybe era.
Yeah, she was bronze. Whenever a warehouse believes that you are too dangerous to be let alone, they bronze you, and that's what happened to um, H.D. Wells. Is especially she's an agent. She was an agent. That's the most dangerous person that it could be because she knows how the warehouse operates and also her intelligence. So she was bronze until McPherson
Appears.
unbronzed her years later. Um, but what I love about this character is the fact that she is the writer, and she explained later on that the fact that people think is a man is because back on those days, women do not write. So she let his was it his I don't know if it was Was it the brother? I think it was a brother. Um, so people thought that he was the writer. So she would write something, he would publish it. Um, you guys haven't gotten around to that episode yet,
No,
right?
no, but I've seen that playing around before with names and writers,
Hmm.
where because of the time they would automatically assume it was a man.
Hmm.
So it checks out pretty much.
Yeah, it was really cool how they did that episode, and and Pete had a thing for H.G. Wells. Her name was Helena G. Wells.
Not too well.
Helena. So, do you have out of the ones that you've seen, Giancarlo? Do you have a favorite artifact?
My favorite artifact?
Yeah,
Mm, I could not tell to be honest. A
I
specific favorite one. What about
I
yours?
I don't I don't know if this says anything about me, but I'm with Pete. When they collected the um remember the feather,
Hmm.
he didn't want to let it go and said, "This is one artifact I don't want to turn in." um this artifact, and later we know it's not just a feather, it was an entire cloak. But this artifact makes you um walk through solid objects.
No, I wouldn't want to let go.
The clothes.
The cloak, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't want. I wouldn't want to let go of that shit either.
Well, if you think about it, it seems like a Harry Potter.
Kind of,
Kind
except that the
of.
Harry Potter is invisibility, but still it's very close. It's a cloak. And
Hey, you can put the cloak in. Somebody goes throws a punch. They just fall on their face. Bah!
exactly. Do you have a favorite, Rocio, out of the ones that you can recall? um I don't know, I mean, there's so many.
There's so
There's so
many.
many. I wonder if Ray has a favorite, but there's just so many, and the more you watch this season, um the more I mean, some of them, they're no joke. You don't um like another artifact that I can recall is Harry Tubman's thimble. And when you have that thimble on, you can become anybody you want. So if you want to, like, for example, I can turn into Rocio, and no one would ever know that I'm actually who I am. Remember how McPherson tricked Lena by using the thimble,
Oh yeah.
so he can become someone else.
Is the even
Yeah,
the finger.
yeah. Ray, I don't know but with the seven episodes that you watch, do you have a favorite? And this might be a heavy question because there's some that you don't want to even go near them.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but you have a favorite artifact uh, out of the ones that you can recollect?
Oh. I mean, the sword that could, it was so sharp it could cut light and turn you into
Oh,
silver was pretty cool.
McFarlane's.
That's like the attack power 10,000 version of the Harry Potter invisibility cloak. So,
Oh yes, and that's actually a sword again, like everything in this show is based on
artifacts that
history.
exist.
It is part of the Japanese culture. This sword is how can I say, is the holy grail for samurai back in the day. We're talking about the one who Masamune is
Masamune?
Masamune. Yeah, Gore. He was actually born in 1264 in Japan and died in 1343. And he was claimed to be the greatest swordsman. So I don't know if some people might not be as geeky as I am with this show, but it's there's a lot of history. like real history in this show.
That's true.
And it's just, I find this to be so amazing how they can incorporate all this into the show. So yeah, everything in there is there. There's some sort of history. I mean, it's apparent from the gun they used, the Foxworth. Wasn't that the guy they invented TV? Um, but you know what I'm saying. It's just I love how they incorporated real history into the show and made it. They combined it with fantasy and sci-fi and all the stuff.
And I
That
think.
that's called alternate history. So
Mhm.
basically, you're taking real events and writing drama around those real events and adding your own touches. So that's basically what this is. This is an alternate history show.
Yep. Robert and I
In a
have
way.
mentioned that a lot in many conversations. That trick where you blend reality with the fiction, and that helps actually take you away and immerse you into the whatever material you're looking into or watching or reading.
It also gives you a feeling that maybe it could possibly be real, and it's just
Yeah.
sort of like the hidden history, which makes it a whole lot more fun to think
Of
about.
course, like next time, like you guys hear that I run into the wall is because I saw a feather and I picked it up and I tried to.
I say we do road trip to South Dakota.
Let's see if you can find the warehouse.
We already know where it's at. That little, all we have to do is just
Well,
find it.
well, you know, if these guys tweet out that they're going on a road trip and then the podcast just stops happening, you'll know what's happened. They're being bronzed.
We're saying it right
They know
here.
too much.
If we don't show up, we have been bronze.
Yep.
Oh man. So a lot of people, and I think I understand Giancarlo's in one aspect. If you Google this, you'll find this as an actual conversation online. Um, because of the way the writers have written this story, and I don't know, Ray, you could probably chime in into this because you are, you write stories. Um, the way that they wrote the story, how they were very particular in mixing science fiction with fantasy, with real life history, with steam. Well, on a steampunk set. Let me say it that way. Um, it makes it hard for people to watch to actually pick a genre. And I noticed this to be a it's an ongoing conversation online. I was actually researching based on what our conversation with Giancarlo's, and I was kind of waiting for Ray to watch this show because I wanted to have this conversation. I already had this conversation with Giancarlo's where he's dead set on this is not sci-fi, but it is not unusual to find people online they say that this is not sci-fi because of this. And also it is because of this that I love the show,
As
because
much
of the way.
sci-fi as Star Wars.
Well, we can say Star Wars is fantasy.
I touch a nerve.
um but no, but it is, but you know what I mean. um so after you watch the 7 episodes, Ray, what is your thought on that conversation? I mean, we have a lot of genres all mixed together that shouldn't be mixed. You can have the conversation with some people that say, well, I don't like my genres mixed. I think having genres mixed, uh and if sprinkled maybe in some areas, um just adds to the story to make it more colorful. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but
Oh no, I know exactly what you mean.
Make it gay if you
No,
want it
look,
more
look,
colorful.
the whole thing is that science fiction is not, it's not a point in space. It's a continuum. So you can have hard science fiction, which is, you know, like your space operas and your sort of, you know, it's all about the science. There's nothing else. There's just science, and they're good for what they are. But you watched one, you've watched most of them, because there's no variation. They all like it's either space opera or space disaster. It's about all you get,
Yeah.
really. Those two things. So other than that, how do you make it more interesting? How do you add variety to it? You've got to start mixing in other genres. And, you know, you can wax lyrical and argue for hours about 2001 is science fiction. It's like the go-to descriptor for science fiction.
Mhm.
But it's pretty dry. Until you get to the drug-induced haze at the end. But thank you, 60s, for adding that part in. But then you look at, you know, 8 years later, you've got Star Wars, which is science fantasy, because none of the science is explained. There's no hard and fast rules. You've got the Force and you know, people talking from beyond the grave and all this sort of stuff, and it's accepted as part of the story, and that's more science fantasy, but it still attracts the science fiction crowd, as long as they're not, you know, dead set on, oh, this is not exactly science fiction, so I'm not going to watch it. And if you do tend to say, oh, if it's not pure science fiction, I'm not going to watch it, you're going to severely limit yourself and miss out on a whole lot of fun. And then you've got these genre benders like Warehouse 13, which combine science fiction, science fantasy, mystery, history, you know, and it's mixed together, and it's like a multi-layered, sort of multi-flavored food dish. Sometimes you're in a mood for like fries, which is just like potatoes cut up and fried in oil, and that's all they are. It's one thing. And sometimes you're in the mood for that, and other times you're in the mood for a dish which is complex. It's got different flavors and aftertastes and all these sorts of things, and umami and all those sorts of amazing things that you can't quite get a handle on, but really excite your palate, and you really enjoy it. And when you're in the mood for that, that's what you want. You don't want fries. You want something exciting. And Warehouse 13 is one of those shows that when you're a bit bored of pure science fiction, you want to go for a bit of something that's all over the place. And thing is, when you try and mix so many competing genres together, you have a lot of trouble getting the mix right. It's like creating a complicated flavor. If you add a little bit of too much, it overpowers everything else. Yeah. But I think so far, I mean, they're a little shaky to begin with, but by episode 7, they're really starting to hit their stride now. And I'm quite enjoying Warehouse 13, and I think that it's got some good legs on it. And it if it's anything, it's never boring. It's never the same thing week after week.
It's funny you say that. I'm going to quote Forrest Gump when he says, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And this is in every episode. I really enjoy that. In some episodes, in some episodes, you might get more fantasy than anything else. You might get in another episode more steampunk. In another episode, you get more sci-fi. But there's always something sprinkled and something different for every episode. And I really enjoy that.
Steampunk is not going to be science.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to get really picky, you can pick apart the physics of pretty much everything they do. Perfect example: the cloak that makes you incorporeal. Basically, he jumps through the wall of a truck. What's stopping him from falling through the floor of the truck?
Exactly. But I still want that.
I mean, it doesn't suit the story. But the physics just don't make any sense. I mean, probably the worst thing you can do if you're still affected by gravity is become incorporeal, because you will end up at the core of the Earth. There's nowhere else for you to go. The largest gravitational field that's affecting you at the time will draw you in. It won't be the sun, because it's not the strongest field closest to you. The closest field to all of us is the center of the Earth, and if you become incorporeal, that's where you will end up very quickly.
No, that mean, I think that if I become incorporeal, then I'm gonna just stay together because my ego has such gravity.
Basically, the physical properties of the Earth are stopping you from falling at 9.8 meters per second squared. If you suddenly become incorporeal, it's like jumping out of a plane. You will start falling through the Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared till you hit the middle of the Earth, and you will go, this is the middle of the Earth. You'll go boing, 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 and then you'll be stuck there. And
That's
if you
it.
become corporeal again, you will go poof, because the pressures down there are pretty awful. So
That could be
basically,
very, very bad.
you put that cloak on, you're dead.
Sounds fun.
So, Giancarlo, you want it?
No, I want Harry Potter. There's more science in there.
See, it doesn't suit the story, but the physics would just be disastrous.
Well, they proved themselves wrong because if you notice when the guy went into the cave, that was basically ground.
And he walked
the
straight
cave
through
wall.
it.
Exactly,
So what's
the cave
stopping you
wall.
from going?
Exactly. But those are things that I I think I do that a lot. And I want to hear your opinion. I know Giancarlo's has a harder time doing this, but I know he does it too for some shows. But I tend to pause my disbelief depending on how enjoyable
Yeah.
that story is. As long as they don't overdo it.
Well, part of me's enjoying the story, and part of me's going bullshit. Oh, bullshit.
What do you think, I know, Giancarlos, I know you do this on other shows where you kind of just suspend your disbelief. It just depends on which shows you like and which shows you kind of like just feel annoyed by
Even
it.
though even the ones I like, I always try to look at it with a critical, unbiased point of view.
Hmm.
So I try to be more centered about what I like and not what I
Yeah,
consider it is or is not science.
yeah.
Well, that's about it. I mean, I got nothing against fantasy steampunk.
No, no, yeah, I know, but the important thing is that you guys are enjoying the show so far,
Oh yeah,
and it's just getting better from here. I mean, you guys just started, and I'm kind of curious to hear from you guys when you finish um, the show. Um,
that warehouse is too big. I don't know if we're gonna be able to.
to hear what your thoughts are on the growth of the characters and how they grow they grow as a person towards the end of the season, the last season. It gets really interesting, and the dynamic. I think this is one of those few shows where the chemistry among the actors was like part of the success. Um, one, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but one of the two actors that I think made the show because of the chemistry is Pete and Myka.
Yes.
That actually, in my opinion, I mean, not. I mean, there's a connection. There's a chemistry between Claudia and Artie. I have a feeling they had fun behind the scenes with their back and forth. But I think Pete and Myka were centered. Their chemistry it made their lines, the delivery of the lines, much more impactful.
It was a moment when Micah was supposed to leave, or she really leave because she felt guilty
Mhm.
for the who did.
Oh, actually, she couldn't stop H.G. Wells.
Exactly. And then she feels totally guilty and responsible. So she wanted to leave and she resigned. She gave a letter that she said she's not going back. And I was thinking, oh, I think it's not going to work there.
Yeah, she was concerned when she left that the show would not be as good as it is because Micah left.
But they make her come back.
Mhm. I thought that you didn't come back and they were you were like, screw
Well,
that bitch.
the first time you watch it, you were really concerned. Do you guys agree though with what we were saying? As far, I mean, I know you only watched basically the beginning. But can you tell the chemistry between the actors as it becomes part of the line delivery and the interaction when they're acting?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Who would you think, in your opinion, had the biggest chemistry? Do you agree with what we just said? It was Pete and Myka, or do you have a different favorite?
No, I think it was Pete and Myka. I mean, they're the focus of the show from the very beginning. All the other characters
Yep.
orbit around them, but they're the prime drivers of the narrative.
Pretty much.
So yeah, their chemistry, and it's the buddy cop sort of philosophy that they've got to get, even if they don't look like they're getting along well together, they've got to play well off each other. And Eddie McClintock and Joanne Kelly certainly do that. So
Yeah,
props to them.
you get a sense that there's like brother and sister.
Mm.
They're always, fighting and
And supporting each other's love life. Oh, who's on a date now?
yeah. Man, yeah, it's just hilarious. I just love their chemistry. Okay, so do you guys, if you don't have anything else to add, I was gonna ask for final thoughts.
Any last words?
I think our guest should go first.
When I ask for final thoughts, is something that you have not said that you think needs to be said, that you like, or anything that you want to point out about the show, that you want to say before we close out the show? It could be anything about something, usually something
So,
that you really like.
so I'm gonna do any last words like Bugs Bunny. It's a shame that we don't have video podcast, but
Well, I
these
like
are my last words.
all things happen in the during the each episode, like when Claudia was totally curious and she wanted to try the clothes that magnetize,
Oh my
and then she
god!
go into some top, and then Ari say her don't touch anything, and she say okay I don't touch, and she continues, and that happens again and again and again, and she always in trouble like Pete.
She's always been having to be rescued by using artifacts because she want to use some artifacts to do some of the tasks that she needs to do because she wants to make it easier for herself, and she always end up in trouble. There was a scene that Rocio was mentioning when she grabbed it was a overall, but it was the guy who invented, I can't remember, the volt electricity, not I think it was
Voltaire.
Voltaire, yeah. And what happens is this thing was magnetized, so the more she comes in contact with metal, the more magnetism she would have. Eventually, she got attached to the beam inside the
Okay.
warehouse. And then you see, like, there was a bicycle that came running at her, plunk, and she's like always like moving because she would get smashed by something. And then towards the end, there was a tank that was moving towards her. And yeah, it was hilarious. And this is what Rosie was saying is like, she originally did this because she wanted to climb the beam and change a light bulb, and she wanted to make it easy for herself.
Mhm.
And she would do stuff like that. She would use like artifacts, try to make her life easier when doing tasks, always end up being rescued by Artie, because she's not really thinking straight. If it was me, I would not touch any of the artifacts.
Or the Christmas party that they put the sparkles, and
Oh
they
yeah,
put in hot cocoa and ice in
yeah.
the Coca-Cola and all of that.
That was an example of an artifact that she was able to successfully use without having to get in trouble.
And how about the branch that make people
Oh, she had a mistletoe. What was it? Was it Artie and
Ari kiss her brother, isn't it? Her brother?
no? It was I forgot his name now. Yeah, and it's like, what's going on? He got mad because It was Claudia was using the mistletoe, making everybody kiss.
So the mistletoe made you kiss the
Yes.
person you were
Yeah.
underneath.
It
You
was-
walk under it and you're forced. It was kind of hilarious because Artie, you know Artie, he's very serious, right? And he would like bend over the guy and kiss them. That's not typical for the character. And
Yeah.
then he looks up and it's like Claudia. It was just hilarious. And of course, Pete wants to use it for his own, means. But
Really? Would Pete do? No, Pete would never do that.
Oh, Giancarlos, I don't know if you've probably seen the least, but do you have any final thoughts on what you managed to see so far?
What I managed to see, I mean, the last episode I was watching was episode 8. Um, but it's what I was telling you. What I like about the show, is that even though you're following a story, every single episode it's a story of its own.
Yes.
It's like watching Doctor Who, for
Mhm.
example. Doctor Who has a continuum in a story, but each episode is a full story that does not completely relate to what happened in the past. It's just something new, you
Yeah.
know. And that's something pretty cool that a TV show can manage, because whenever you're gonna watch the next episode, it's not like, okay, let's see what continues happening. No, it's let's see what's new now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think this is one of the reasons why I love the show. Is
I love the blue blocks. The blue box.
the blue box?
I love it.
A TARDIS.
The TARDIS.
I was thinking there for a minute, blue box. Oh, the TARDIS. It's bigger in the inside. Ray, what is your final thoughts on this show?
Don't judge it by the first 4 or 5 episodes. It takes a little while to get going.
Yeah.
I realize that it's a complicated set of premises and themes that run through this show, and it takes a little while for them to untangle them and get them happening. But once they do, it's quite an enjoyable methodology that they use, and it's like Robert said, you get something new every episode. None of it's the same. It's not like General Hospital for like 50 years straight, where it's people being sick and other people having drama, and that's about the whole show. There's always something different going on here, and it works on 2 levels: the monster of the week level, which is the artifact of the week, as it were, and also the story running through the background about the characters and what they've been through in the past and trying to deal with their pasts and grow as people. So they're not 2-dimensional characters; they're quite robustly three-dimensional. And I'm looking forward to watching more now. It took a little while for me to get into it, but as of this morning when I watched episode 7, I'm on board now, so I'll keep watching.
Awesome. Okay, so should we move on to the next segment?
Such as it is, yeah.
The science in sci-fi.
Well, this one's a little bit tricky this week because obviously they've looked at what we have or what we're expected to have and then worked backwards and tried to suggest that previously people with analog technology, and I'd almost call it analog punk rather than steampunk, because steampunk is generally things driven by steam. Most of the technology here is electrical, but it's analog. So things that we have that are digital, they invented, 50, 80 years beforehand as an analog device. So with earlier technologies. The ones that I wanted to bring up was now that I don't know what they call them in the show, that those little tin cans that have the little screen and the dials and things in them, which is basically like a smartphone. Well, it's not a smartphone. It's like a FaceTime machine, as it were. It doesn't do the whole smartphone thing. It just does FaceTime.
FaceTiming, hand TV.
Yeah. So as was mentioned earlier, the show came out.
It was a fan's world.
a fan's worth. Is that what they call it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
a
the show,
two-way radio communication, audio video communication, and there's a story behind it. It was invented by Philo Fanthworth, and he was August. He was born in August 1906, and died March 11, 1971. He was an American inventor and television pioneer.
makes sense. Although where television is one-way broadcast, this was two-way broadcast, so it's more complicated than early television would have been. So the original release of this TV show was July 7, 2009. So obviously they started producing it maybe a year earlier. So the ideas in the show would have come up in 2008. And FaceTime in the early Apple smartphones came in September 18, 2013. So 4 to 5 years beforehand, they predicted FaceTime and video audio transmission with a handheld device. So I thought that was interesting. They were a little bit ahead of the curve there. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is more sort of poking holes in things, and then like I was saying with the cloak that would allow you to become incorporeal and not get sucked to the center of the earth somehow. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so the Tesla pistol, which of course everybody wants one, because if you say something to your partner and they get very upset with you and they drop the D word, you can just go zap and have them forget it. But not that I've needed one so far, but it could happen one day. But the basis of the electrical discharge weapon system, or a taser as it's become widely known and is now widely used by law enforcement all around the world, the non-lethal electrical detainment system, where you zap somebody and they lose control of their nerves for a little while, and then you chuck them in handcuffs or zip ties, and the job's done without ventilating them. So I was actually looking at a patent. So this is U.S. patent 2005 0024807. If you wanted to look it up, it's on the internet. Electrical discharge weapon system is basically the patent for a taser weapon. And in this particular patent, it describes the necessity for the wires and the electrode, because as it states, that it's the only way to get the electricity to go where you actually want it to go. They basically say you can't get electricity to shoot out the end of a gun and go in a straight line, because electricity will go in the shortest route possible and the easiest route possible into the ground. So basically, if you had a Tesla gun and you pointed at somebody and you went zap, it would go like that down to the ground. We've had a lot of things sinking towards the center of the earth today, and this is yet another one of them.
But it surely makes it entertaining.
It does. It does. But yeah, unless you're above the person shooting down towards the ground,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they happen to be in the way, it's not going to work very well. So yeah, you need the wires and the electrode to get the electrical energy into the target. I don't know that tasers have been known to make people forget recent memories, but certainly it's a way to detain people, knock them down, knock them out. So yeah, basically with current technology, the Tesla gun does not work. But where there's a will, there's a way, and they found a way around it with the design of the electrical discharge weapon system. So I wanted to bring that one up in a sort of a more, well, the real science says no, but we'll just suspend disbelief there for a little while and enjoy the show.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I this concludes the show. I just hope that you guys find this show as entertaining as well. Basically, in this case, me and my wife Rocio, you guys surely enjoyed it. I'm really happy for it. There's just one more new thing. You're probably going to be in the same boat we are, where we want that we want the show to get a reboot or a remake now, because we are tired of rewatching the show. We love the show. We just rewatch it once in a while. Um, so I hope that you guys enjoy it, and also do reach out to us on Twitter, either Ray, Giancarlos, or me, or the science fiction Twitter hash, or the actual hashtag that this is sci-fi, and let us know what you guys think about this show, Warehouse 13. If you enjoyed it, and why you enjoyed it. Let's start this conversation. That the This is Sci-Fi hashtag is the perfect medium to have that. Also, if you want to join up to on our Discord, we have our Discord link on the description. We do have a channel for Warehouse 13 there, so if you want to go ahead and join in, and let's talk about Warehouse 13.
Woohoo! Cool.
Mhm.
And I'll
Uh,
keep watching, so I'll know more about what's happening later on.
Nice. I really want to thank my wife Rocio for being on the show today. This is technically her second time, but the first time we had technical difficulties, so I couldn't have her on the video. But thank you for being on the show, and I hope we didn't scare her enough, and she can come back.
No, she didn't drink too much wine. That's the problem.
Hey, your glass is still full. You need to fix that.
Yep, she didn't touch it. If she would have drank half of that, she will be talking normal, like hello.
Awesome. Okay, until next time, let's end it for now. And hope you enjoyed this episode and come back for more.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye bye.